Listen, folks, if you've made it this far and if you've seen our faces all day here on the live stream on hoopsing.com, we thank you. We appreciate you. You are a true hardcore. Really, you're an addict. You're an addict. Let's just call it what it is. And it's totally fine. We support your addiction.
I'm an addict as well.
He's Josh Tec. I'm Justin Young. We're here for your therapy on the first day of the early sign-in period right here on hoopsing.com. If you can tell by energy, it's what time is it out there? Oh, it's only not even 8 o'clock on the East Coast.
No, we're still in the first half of these games, baby. We're good. We're cooking.
Plenty of runway. We got plenty of runway. We are going through the teams in the SEC on this particular podcast in the early signing period. We've already talked a lot about Missouri. They've got an unbelievable class, historic class, number 2 class overall in the country. We've talked about Auburn. Big fan of their class coming in. But we're going to talk about a little deep dive into the rest of the conference. And it's really weird the fact that Kentucky, Josh Tec, is part of the second category of the SEC. Like, it just kind of blows my mind that that's where we're at right now with Kentucky. A 2-man class, a really good 2-man class. Okay. Yeah. Boogie Flan, we talked about him a lot today. I really like that one a lot. I think he's perfect for John Calipari, like custom built. Somto, just like a European soccer player, to me, just deserves one name because I think it's really freaking cool. Somto Cyril is also headed to Kentucky, a big defensive presence in the middle, a rim bender, a really fun player. He's not Oscar Tshiebwe, but he's big, strong.
Come from the same cloth if you're a Kentucky fan.
Yeah, like if you're a Kentucky fan, which I know you're a Louisville guy, so I'm probably asking the wrong guy or the wrong question. But are you pissed? Are you like underwhelmed? Are you still holding out hope? I mean, like, what are your emotions right now being a Kentucky fan on recruiting? I mean, this used to be Christmas Day for Kentucky Wildcats. This feels more like a birthday or I
feel like Kentucky fans are kind of perpetually pissed off and perpetually happy. Like they're just
it's the same way.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of they're the most rabid, crazy fan base for a reason. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason to what they do, but they're very passionate. I think they're going to love these 2 guys. I think they're going to love Boogie Flan. They're going to love Somto Cyril. But I also think, on the other hand, they're kind of waiting to see, like, all right, if they get Carter Knox, I think they could be, they'll be happy with that. And then you add in maybe like a transfer or 2 come this, late spring, summertime next year. Then you're sitting in good position. But right now, I think that there's kind of like we weren't really in on any of the guys that went to Duke. We weren't really in on a lot of these other guys. So what the hell's going on? I think there's a little bit of that. But if you're a Kentucky fan, think about it like this. Carter Knox is still up there. He's like a top 15 guy. And he is probably going to Kentucky. Like, I would bet on him going to Kentucky. And then Jaden Quaintance is also still on the board for you guys. And he just took the G League Ignite off of his top 5. And Kentucky's, heavily in play for him there as well. And he's another 5-star guy. So let's say you land both those guys. That's 3 5-stars, 3 top 15 level guys. And then plus Somto Cyril, a really quality 4-star guy.
Yeah, and Kentucky's one of those programs, too, that when they decide to get in a race, they can get in a race and, like, overcome a lack of time or whatever. Kentucky, right? Like you got the Disney Fast Pass in the line.
Like the only teams you're not swooping in and just like stealing from are Kansas, Duke, Carolina,
Arizona.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they would.
There's a handful, but you get the point.
That's the benefit of being the Big Blue Nation, right? You can come in there and you can squash that. So certainly holding out, but it is an odd feeling today that a lot of the headlines aren't involving Kentucky in a way like what a superstar class, top 3 class, blah, 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 blah. But Boogie Flan, I'm good with him, man. I love it.
And like if you add Carter Knox and Jaden Quaintance, which like I said, I would mean that you add both of them, that vaults you to top 5.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
You know who's feeling better than I just gave it away. And then Kentucky fans, the Alabama fans. The Alabama fans are feeling pretty stoked. They got Nas Cunningham yesterday. On Tuesday it was, and Aiden Sherrill, 2 long guys. We talked about them before in a previous show. I love Nas Cunningham for them. Again, was a guy that was number 1 at one point in his prep career. Now more like a top 40 guy. Not to say that he can't get back to that, but fits that mold of a long, rangy forward that Nate Oates has had a lot of success with. So we already talked about them a lot, so I don't want to spend too much time. We haven't talked about LSU. I feel like we need to talk about LSU because that's been our whole roster build for Matt McMahon. Some swings and misses last year, some victories, but part of their process is rebuilding that roster and making it into a program that Matt McMahon can have success with. And I feel like they've done a pretty good job with the two guys they have, and Robert Miller and Curtis Givens. And Curtis Givens, we thought, was one of the best recruiting wins of this class overall nationally.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he was going to Memphis. I mean, Curtis Givens, he had this whole thing laid out like he was going to Memphis. He's originally from the Memphis area. He purposefully scheduled Memphis as his last visit. Like, if you have any kind of intel on recruiting, that seems like a tell, right? Like, all right, I'm going to go to my hometown school, who's known for recruiting. On my last visit of the recruiting cycle, felt like it was set up for him to commit to Memphis, but he spurned them and commit to LSU. And yeah, I think that's really good. He's really, he really stood out early in his career as a scorer, but like he's really added playmaking and true point guard skills to his bag recently. So I think they're really getting a well-rounded guard down there in the Bayou.
Well, then you had Robert Miller, who I believe is from Houston. So you got the Houston pipeline going with LSU, makes a lot of sense. Memphis
legacy
pipeline.
player. His dad played football there.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you've got some players that you can grow with. Curtis Givens, I thought in the last 18 months has been awesome. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely. Put the ball in his hands and really have a lot of fun with that. We've seen Matt McMahon have some success with some pretty dang good guards in his time dating back to Murray State. So I think
interesting tidbit that only I would be interested in is both of LSU's recruits are the third. Robert Miller the third, Curtis Givens the third.
I saw that on our notes, and I was like, that is a Josh Tec note if I've ever seen one.
It's kind of weird. Like, I like weird little oddities like that.
I do too. Okay, well, here's an oddity. So Asa Newell, major commitment, major signing for the University of Georgia, one of the best in school history. And I would argue, Georgia, so it's interesting. So I have a lot of people who have always said this to me. Georgia should be so much better than what they are in basketball and recruiting, which I don't necessarily disagree with. A couple of things. Athens is not really that close to Atlanta. Even though if you look at a map, you think that it's two different worlds. Traffic in Atlanta is no joke. It sucks. You go down Highway 316, it's a 2-lane road. You're in bumper to bumper for almost the whole way. That's not an excuse. But if you're in Atlanta and there's a game on a Monday or on a weeknight, and there's a 9:00 game, you're probably not going out to that game, even if it's a great game.
Dude,
even if it's a great game.
This is my job, and I don't even want to go to I don't want to go to Gwinnett County for games sometimes. Sure. You know what I'm saying?
If you live on the west side of Atlanta, right over where the Braves play, kind of where you're at, like that's a really long drive. And so Atlanta, people say, oh, they should get the best players from Atlanta. That's actually harder than it realizes. Unless you're from Georgia, you don't realize on the outside looking in, like how difficult that is.
Yeah.
But to their credit, they've done a pretty good job, better than people they get credit for on landing players from the state of Georgia. Now I get it. There's a ton of guys, and they all go to Auburn, they go to Florida, wherever they go, Florida State. But Georgia's done a pretty decent job of getting guys. Asa Newell, however, is the best player since Dominique Wilkins, high-level player, to go to UGA. And I would argue in the modern era, he's the very best, the highest-ranked guy, and probably the most significant. Listen, we know that they've had Anthony Edwards. KCP was a really important recruit coming out of Greenville, Georgia, small Greenville. Mike Mercer, Lou Williams back in 2005, I guess it was. But they, that neither one of them ended up going there. So, I mean, they both committed to them at the time. So I think that was important. Well, I guess Mike Mercer did, but Lou Williams obviously went to the pros. But this is significant, and this is a significant recruiting win for Mike White, where historically, man, it's been really tough to get out of area guys to come down there. You're getting guys on the rebound. I mean, Tom Crean did a decent enough job trying to get out there and recruit. Mark Fox did the same thing. Dennis Felton did. I mean, you go back, even back to Jim Herrick. I mean, they've tried. But Asa Newell's the first guy that's been able to do that. And he's got Athens ties. He's got family there, and he grew up there.
Mike White was at Florida, where Asa Newell's from, and he's probably been seeing him and around him since forever.
But that's significant. I would argue that Asa Newell to Georgia, I mean, I'll say probably one of the three most important recruiting wins of this 24 class, and maybe a top 5 most important recruiting wins of like the last 10 years?
Sure, yeah, I can agree with that. And earlier you said he's the best, like the most important command, whatever. Are you talking about just from like a
Non-Georgia. Yeah, non-Georgia.
Okay, I think
I probably didn't finish my thought.
Yeah, I think there might have been a lack of clarification there, and I feel like we would have gotten a lot of pushback about Anthony Edwards because he is certainly a beloved person around here, and rightfully so. He puts on well for the city and well for the area. So I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Yeah, and I was probably talking faster than my brain because that's again where we're at in this day. But yeah, the most important non-state recruit to the state.
Yeah, and to that degree, I 100% agree because yeah, you go into a very talent-rich area like Florida, and you kind of do what other states do to Georgia and take their best guys. That's a massive win.
Like he's not even the same. Like he's not the same talent, but like the last like out of area guy that I thought made a difference was Sundiata Gaines from New York. Like that came down, like was a really fun college player. But Sundiata Gaines and Asa Newell coming out of high school, their ranking don't correlate on the same parallel. So shout out to Mike White and his staff for really
yeah. And you look at this, they're still very much in on Darion Reed, who we have as a top 10 guy, and they're still very much in on Kanai Kahani Roots, who is a 4-star guy that we are also very high on. So that's 2 additional forwards. So they're recruiting size as well. Like
it would be, and it would be interestingly enough, it would probably it would be a better class than any class that he recruited when he was at University of Florida, which kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, he did have one class in Florida that was pretty damn loaded.
It was not to get Darion Reed and or Kahani.
No, I know, but it's just like a fun debate. Like the one with oh great, I'm gonna forget, but I'll text you off air. But he had one class in Florida that was honestly like really good. It just didn't pan out.
Well, you'll think about it once we hit stop record on this. Well, let's talk about out of area. So Cam Scott going to Texas was one of those significant ones out of state of South Carolina. Going down to Austin, Texas. Really, we like his potential down there on being a pro-level player for Rodney Terry in the city of Austin for the Longhorns. We went crazy about it when it happened. We loved it when it happened. But Cam Scott to Texas, I would put in that same category as one of the most important recruiting wins of the 2024 class.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cam Scott, I thought he was a lock to go to South Carolina, right? Like,
yeah,
he's from there, like, played right up the street. Well, I don't know. South Carolina is a small state, so everything's right up the street. But, like, I thought he was pretty much a shoo-in to go to South Carolina. But for Texas to come in and get him, that's pretty impressive. And with Cam Scott is at his best, there are not many other prospects that feel better about it, like pro potential, than Cam Scott. And that's when he's operating at his very best. He looks, like NBA solidified.
Yeah, landed a big, important guy from Texas as well, Nick Cody, really nice 2-man class. And it's still weird for me to think about Texas in the SEC.
Yeah, I know. It's like it honestly is not as like disturbing as some of these other ones. Some of these other ones are just straight up disturbing. Like no matter how you shake it, USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten, that's horror movie disturbing. That's like banned in several countries disturbing. That's crazy.
Well, the part that strikes me as interesting is we know the state of Texas is a recruiting hotbed for everybody. And the Big 12 was always kind of the benefactor of the state of Texas. Now I do wonder with the SEC, with A&M and Texas now in the league, do more teams go to Houston, Dallas, all those great recruiting hotbeds in the state of Texas to dip in there a little bit more to go find guys? Because also too, this is kind of a nice pivot. I mean, you got to think about Chris Beard at Ole Miss is going to come back to Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Arkansas is a natural place. I mean, they got Jalen Shelley out of the state of Texas to come to Arkansas. Oklahoma's gone down there. So yeah, I mean, they're all in the league too.
Honestly, Kentucky recruits. Kentucky has recruited.
Kentucky recruits Texas super well.
Yeah,
super well. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox, Julius Randle. I mean, yeah, you go down the line. Yeah, the Harrison twins. Yeah.
So I found that Florida class that
I knew you were looking for it. I could feel
it. Scotty Lewis, 5-star. Yeah. Trey Mann, 5-star. Omar Payne, Quez Glover. That class, that could be up there in the Mike White best classes. I think this one would be better, but this one, there's a conversation there.
Yeah, I mean, you get Darion Reed involved, him and Asa Newell, 2 top 15 guys. It's pretty amazing.
For sure.
We haven't seen that. Honestly, the last time we saw two guys is when Lou Williams and Mike Mercer committed. That's a story for another podcast for a different day. I remember that day, clear as day. Those were some fun days in the old original .com days. Let's talk about Arkansas for a split second. We talked about Isaiah Elohim earlier on our draft of our best fits, our favorite fits. I like Isaiah Elohim a lot for them, for the style they played. Jalen Shelley when he committed, I think I could see that one being, both of those guys being significant. We saw how he does with talent, lots of talent, a lot of depth. I think both of those guys are plug and play players right away. Jalen Shelley in a class that doesn't have. It has good bigs, not great bigs. I think Jalen Shelley could be a great big in a college program the way that Muss wants to play. I like that class a lot.
Yeah. And what I like about that is that that Muss is going to supplement it with some of the best transfers. He always does. So it's like you kind of go into thinking about, all right, these two freshmen plus like two of the best transfers on the market. There you go. Now you're building something.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Oklahoma, we really like a lot. Cole Attack, one of our favorite players that we've seen on our travel circuit.
Yeah, I think that's a sleeper guy that could end up having a pretty good career there.
We talked about fit earlier. We probably should talk about this in the fit draft. But Texas A&M, I feel like they recruited guys that fit their style of player really well.
Tough dudes.
Tough dudes, right? And like Buzz Williams, that's kind of what he wants. That's kind of what he wants to grow with. George Turkson and Andre Mills, I mean, these are prize fighters, guys that get in the ring and they'll throw hands with you in a good way, in the sporting kind of way, not necessarily in a technical foul.
Right? Yeah, I think of George Turkson especially. He's like a super low maintenance guy that Buzz Williams can win with. Like that guy is going to be. I think that marriage is really, really good, and it's kind of interesting to see him go up to Massachusetts to kind of pull a guy down to Texas A&M to the SEC.
He's recruiting all over the place. Like he went to Baltimore to get Rod Dockery, who's now a freshman. I mean, he's kind of going all over the place, kind of getting out of Texas. I mean, him being a Texan and proud Texan. I'm surprised that we aren't seeing that more often.
Yeah, I kind of like it though. Like, go get the dudes. Doesn't matter where they're from. Go get the dudes.
Mississippi State, Delquan Warren. I like him as a sleeper pick. I really do. Fun, exciting. Mississippi State will be interesting to watch. John Bull, Ole Miss, Defensive Player of the Year potential.
Yeah, 100%, man. I saw John Bull the other day at OTE's like opening day or whatever it was. He was really, really impressive. He has just like after talking to him for a little bit, he has just like such a great mind and he just gets it, man. Like you would ask him a question about the game and he would give you like very detailed what he was thinking of at that moment in time. Yeah. Why he was thinking that. He was just like, I'd never really had one-on-one kind of conversation with him like that before a couple weeks ago. And that really impressed me and kind of, I was already high on John Bull. How could you not be 7'2" and long as hell? But like just kind of hearing him explain how he was processing the game at certain moments was like, all right, you get it. Like,
yeah.
From there.
You know, Josh, as I'm looking at all these lists, we forgot to mention Tennessee, Bishop Boswell, another great defensive player.
I think that one's going to be really good. I think I mentioned that on our draft. Like, he's going to play into that just ugly style in a good way.
I want to bring them in because I feel like when I look at this league, I've got the list over here. That's why I keep looking.
That's another North Carolina kid, by the way.
Yeah, but that's for the SEC. The SEC is the one.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to keep mentioning. North Carolina's good.
I feel like the SEC, like, there's not a haves and have-nots. I feel like there's a lot of teams kind of all clumped together where you've got like 6 or 7 guys or programs that are all kind of bringing equal level talent, equal level depth, equal level impact guys, where it would be hard to say, okay, well, this is the 5th ranked and this is the 7th ranked. Like, I think 5 through 9 could probably all be within the same category.
I think 3 through whatever, like outside of Missouri and man, like really outside of Missouri, you could make a case for a lot of these classes. And like, I wouldn't really bat an eye if you thought that like, if you were like, I like Auburn more than Kentucky, I wouldn't disagree. If you said the vice versa, I wouldn't disagree. If you like,
well, I think it shows why the SEC is always so competitive in basketball. It's because there's great depth, great coaches, great facilities. Like, it's fun, man. It's a fun place.
They've really stepped it up in the last several years. And I think this year we're looking at it as being potentially the best league in the country. Like for years, that's been the Big 12, but now you're looking at the SEC for the 2023-2024 season as like, all right, this could actually be the best league in the country.
And it's a really like it's a I mean, John Calipari is probably the most tenured, right? Bruce Pearl's pretty tenured, but listen, Nate Oates is relatively new. Matt McMahon's pretty new. Rodney Terry's pretty new.
Right.
You
been around, but he hasn't been around the SEC.
Right. Like all these guys are 3 years and younger within their jobs within the league. It's a new flavor within the conference. And man, I still feel like we're trading punch for punch, not just on the basketball court, but on the recruiting trail as well. The SEC, which, listen, if you're a fan of the league, it just means you're going to have great games. I mean, I think really good games. And that conference tournament's going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot of depth coming into this league, and they're still not done yet in the conference.
No. And what I think is really fun about this is there's a lot of depth that could be like, we talk about it. We've said it a lot throughout today in various shows that no, yes kind of players. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of excitement in that regard. Like Boogie Flan, when he's operating, there's none better. When Cam Scott, when he's operating, there's nobody better.
Sure.
When Todd Pettiford's operating, there's not anybody. It's like those kind of guys when they're at their best, there's not very many better. And then it's just kind of riding those roller coasters. I think it's going to be really fun to watch all these freshmen kind of integrate themselves into college basketball.
Drop a comment below, whether you're on YouTube or right here in X, who you think is your favorite class, maybe outside.
There's a lot of two-man ones. That's the thing. It's like I'm looking through this. I keep looking through it. It's like Tahad Pettiford, Ja'Kai Howard, Cam Scott, Nick Cody, George Turkson, Andre Mills, Cole Tack, Dayton Forsyth, Aiden Sherrill, Naz Cunningham, Jaden Shell. It's like two-man.
A lot of 1-2s. Yeah, a lot of 1-2s.
And I like that. Like I just think it's like you just look at it and you're like, oh, man, that could be an exciting duo to see.
Just let us know in the comments below. I'd be curious to hear your opinion because we had a hard time with it ourselves, as you can kind of tell, even just judging by the show.
Outside Missouri, like it's throw a dart.
Yeah. For Josh Tec, I'm Justin Young. We appreciate you watching this edition of the SEC Early Exploration into the early signing period. We have a lot more to come up on hoopsing.com, so make sure you stay logged on. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're watching on X, hit the repost button so I get more eyeballs on this. And I know, Josh, you're off to the games. I'm off to take a nap because I'm old and I'm tired and I'm ready to call it a day. We've had a fun day, though. Been fun.
We have. There's a lot of blowouts going on right now, so they might not be that fun games to watch, but so good.
Probably true. There's always a thing called the NBA, which is always fun all the time. So, all right, Josh, we appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.